Welcome to the Show Me the Way podcast. I am your host, Andrea Miller, alongside a dear, dear friend, Tammy Thompson, and we are so excited to bring this podcast to you. Show Me the Way podcast is a podcast dedicated to exploring the journeys of those who have faced adversity and found themselves on unexpected paths. We will have meaningful, thoughtful conversations about challenges we have faced and how we discovered and forged new direction. Prepare to be inspired and to uncover your own strength as you listen to relatable and motivating stories. Life has a way of twisting and turning, and we often need a fresh perspective to understand how to navigate. Let's show each other the way. My guest today is Melissa Goldstein, a beautiful woman and mother I had the privilege of meeting also through the direct sales company I worked with the past 4 years. Although we only saw each other in person a few times and our interactions were mostly business related, I knew she would be an impactful guest with valuable wisdom and experiences to share. During our conversation, Melissa opens up about her journey as a mother to twins, one of whom was diagnosed with autism. She shares the highs and lows of navigating his diagnosis, advocating for his needs, finding the right school environment, and balancing his growth alongside his twin sisters. Now, as her children are in their early 20s, Melissa reflects on the lessons she learned as a parent and a caregiver. Her story is one of patience, resilience, and love. She also emphasizes the importance of support from her husband, family, and friends, and those who have walked similar paths. No matter what challenges we face in life, Melissa's insight and advice are important for us all. I can't wait for you to listen. Welcome back to the Show Me the Way podcast. Today's guest is another friend that I was fortunate enough to meet and continue to keep in touch with from the direct sales company that I was part of for the last 4 years. Melissa Goldstein is a bright and passionate, amazing woman with all kinds of experiences and lots of great life lessons to share. We didn't get to see each other very often, but the few times we were around each other, we shared some beautiful life stories. And I can't wait for her to share some with us today. I'm honored to have Melissa on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Andrea. That is so sweet. I really appreciate being here and getting to spend some time with you in a totally different way. So
Yes,
thanks
you're right about
again.
that.
Yeah.
Good, of course. Well, good. Okay, before we jump in, I usually like our guests to say a little bit more about themselves. So tell us where you're from, more about your family, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a Long Island girl. You could probably hear it in my accent. Long Island, New York, living in Jersey, married forever, 33 years. Yes, got married young, and we have twins. My husband and I have twins, a girl and a boy that are 25 now. And my son, one of the twins, has fairly high functioning autism, and it's been a journey. And I feel like everybody's journey is different, and this one has been mine, I guess.
Yes, that's for sure. You're right about that. Even if you have similarities, you still have such a unique path and different experiences to share.
Yes, definitely.
For sure. Wow. Well, that's awesome. I love that you said you've been married to your husband forever. you
I
know,
know him since I'm 12 from
wow.
sleepaway camp and got married when I was 23.
That is super cute. When you met him when you were 12, did you know you were gonna marry him someday?
Well, he's 4 years older than me, but, I think I knew really young, though. It's a
Okay.
funny story.
Yeah, I love that. I say that because we had a guest on the show a few weeks ago, and it was the same thing. She's like, "I met my husband when I was, very young," but she said, "I'm gonna marry him someday." I'm like, "How did you know?"
You just
So
kinda know, and he likes to joke that he didn't have a choice, that I picked him, so, you know.
Well, whatever. He's very, very lucky that he's had you all this time.
Aw,
So,
thank you.
so that's wonderful. Okay. Well, like I always say, the Show Me the Way podcast is just an opportunity for people to share their unique experiences, share a time in their life where they thought their path was going one way and they needed to pivot and went a different direction for some reason. All of us have multiple stories like that, but we want you to share what's on your heart. I will point out, as I said to Melissa before we popped on, my partner Tammy, she is not with us today. She's with us in spirit. She's off doing some other amazing things, but she's still part of the Show Me the Way podcast. And I know she'll love this even if she's not part of it. So just want to put that out there. But again, we don't provide our guests a specific structure or exact story that they need to talk about. So kind of just let Melissa go. So, Melissa, if there was a time in your life where you thought your path was going one way and it completely changed, we would love to hear about it.
Sure. So, as I already told you, married a long time, have twins that are 25. Pretty early on, my son was diagnosed with autism at the time called PDD. He was 26 months old right after the second birthday. And actually, our nanny brought it to my attention. She was afraid to tell us, but she had 3 kids already and knew something was wrong, and also has, a friend who had a son with autism that was a little bit older than my kids. So, I mean, long story short, on that end, we got into a neurologist pretty quickly, and, I was kinda hoping he was gonna tell me that I was a crazy Jewish mother, but I was not. So that started our autism journey. And, you just never know. My kids were premature twins. They were born at 31 weeks, but, that doesn't necessarily matter. And I'm just really, really fortunate that I've had so many amazing people come into my life who have helped me along this journey. And I kind of wish we had social media back then because there are so many good resources out there, whether you're on Instagram or Facebook. And, there were no communities like podcasts or whatever the case may be back then. This was 1999 when my kids were born. And my friends and I have actually created a Facebook group, which may or might not be helpful for others, called Parent Resource Group. We don't update it honestly as much as we used to, but it's definitely out there, and there's so many good resources. But anyway, so fast forward, my son was really nonverbal for a long time. He was in the regular school district, pre-K, and I knew that had to change. And we were lucky enough to get him into it's like a private school, but paid by the school district because our district didn't have the facilities to really help him the way he needed to be helped. And he's now, 25 and finishing up a college program, which if you would have told me even, 8 or 10 years ago that my son would be living on a college campus and really functioning in the world without my supervision day to day, I would have said impossible. Not a
Wow, so he
chance.
lives there.
Yeah, so there's
Wow.
actually a lot of college programs out there. So, like parents with kids with special needs of any kinds should know that there's so much that their kids can do, and you just have to keep encouraging them and treating them like a typical kid and expecting them to make their bed and expecting them to do what they should be doing. And truthfully, I have to really credit my daughter a lot because as being his twin, she really pushed him to do things. How come Matthew doesn't have to do that? Matthew can do it. Make Matthew do it. So I definitely, definitely credit my daughter for opening my eyes to a lot of that. And her friends are always very, very accepting. I find kids in general are more accepting than adults. It's just the way it is. So yeah, there's definitely so much out there for people to take advantage of. And kids, even typical kids, will mature differently. They have to follow their path and their journey. Matthew's graduating in May, and it's a 4-year program. He gets a certificate of completion. It's not like a bachelor's of arts or bachelor's of science. It's a certificate of completion, but he's living on a college campus and taking classes and scheduling his day and doing internships every semester. And yeah, it's amazing.
That is incredible. I would have no idea about that. As you were talking, I mean, geez, life just goes so fast, but that was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm sure that so much has changed in terms of resources or even what it's called or what people believe these children can do. So, I think that's really great that you continue to evolve with him. to learn and that your daughter got involved and also helped with that process.
Yeah, and there's actually a website, I think it's called, thinkcollege.net, which will show you college programs all over the country that have different degrees of support depending on what your child's need is. There's a lot out there for sure. If you don't ask, you don't get, right?
Right. There's so many people that probably just have no idea. So, wow. I knew it. I knew you were going to share something really important and impactful with us for sure.
Oh,
Wow. Okay. So, is he close to home at least? Or,
he's about an hour away.
okay, that's perfect.
Yeah, it is perfect, and the college owns, I think it's like 5 or 6 houses. The program that he's in at this school owns 5 or 6 houses, and the students all live in these houses. It's like 4 to 6 students in a house with a house mentor.
Okay.
But they come and go. He can go to the gym during his free time. He can take an Uber to the movies, and this is all things that we've built up to, and teaching him how to do these things. And the school that he was in until 21, because that's the law in New Jersey, is the that kids can stay in school until 21, and I think that's the case for a lot of parts in the country. I think Michigan might actually be 26. Different states have different laws, but there's definitely a lot available if you take advantage of it. And believe me, I was terrified. My husband, who was never worried about anything, was beyond worried about having him living on a college campus, because like the fear is someone's going to take advantage, someone's going to do something that's completely awful. I mean, you know how you, as a mom, all of our minds
Oh, yeah.
can wander to all kinds of horrible scenarios, right? But he's been amazing.
That's great. So, what are the next steps? What happens after he graduates?
So he is on a wait list for something called supervised apartments. There's everyone's heard of group homes, right? So group homes tend to be for lower functioning adults, but then there's something called supervised apartments where it could be part of a day program or attached to a day program. But supervised apartments, it's generally a building where somebody is in the building 24/7, not in the unit with your child, but someone there to check on them. And then after that is something called independent living. So the place where he's on a wait list for, he would be in a supervised apartment. They say generally a year to a year and a half until an independent living situation where they have more independence, but still can take advantage of programs. And he'll get a job doing something. We'll
That's
see.
great. Does he seem excited about having independence and being able to do these things himself?
Yes, and I think part of it is having a twin sister, so, like, he knew he wanted to go to college because that's what his sister did, and I had to explain to him that his high school ends at 21 and her high school ended at 18, and he'll just go when he's ready. I call them mommy white lies. You gotta say what you're gonna say. Also, with twins, he was determined to get a driver's license, which was horrifying. It took him 6 times to pass the written test. He shockingly passed the road test on the first time, and he's never driven by himself. And he hasn't driven in a long time, but he wanted to get a driver's license. I told him, look, the law in New Jersey is the older twin goes first. So my daughter is 1 minute older, and that's the way it was. So now that he's graduating, he wants to live in an apartment with his friends like his sister does.
Think that is amazing. I love it. And yeah, I mean, they're not really like lies. It's just like enabling him to comprehend what has to happen and making it in a safe and protected way instead of shutting down things that he wants to try.
Okay, it's if you say so,
I
it's
I
a bit of a
like it.
lie.
Just a
It's
little
it's
bit,
a
but
constructive lie. How's that?
yeah, there you go. Well, I like it, and it kind of reminds me, as you know, my son has muscular dystrophy, he's in a
Yes.
wheelchair, and he is his mental capability is completely there. He's just like another 15-year-old. But we always say doing things Nathan's ways. So sometimes you just have to alter it so that
Yeah,
it's easier for him to do.
right. Of course, gotta make it work.
Yeah.
And sometimes that looks differently, and that's
Mhm.
okay.
Yep. So How is the relationship between your twins now? Do they communicate quite a bit?
Yes, they're very close, and we have a family group chat that my husband, all of us participate in, and they FaceTime. That generation FaceTimes more than they call or
Right.
they text. But yeah, they're like an old married couple. They're very cute.
That's great. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that. There's so much to be said about siblings.
yeah,
As parents, we don't even fully understand, especially a twin sibling,
right.
like that connection that they have, and what it feels like to be the sibling of somebody that has special needs like that.
Yeah, my daughter says her barometer when dating someone is if the person likes his YouTube channel, likes my son's YouTube channel.
So
And
he has a YouTube channel. That's
yes,
cool.
he makes stop motion photography movies with Lego.
Wow, it's so neat.
Yeah, I can give you the information
Please,
if you
yeah,
want.
we will put
Yeah,
it in the show notes. That's
it's
so
pretty cool. He's
cool.
got thousands of followers on his YouTube channel.
Well, I'm certain our listeners are gonna wanna follow too. That's great. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's a good barometer. If they're like, "Nah, I don't wanna follow it. Not good enough."
right, not good enough.
That is excellent. Yeah, my older son, I mean, I brag about him probably too much, but he just has this different perspective on life that most kids, I mean, he's got some wonderful friends and they accept my younger son so much as well, but they just don't see life and they don't see things the way that he does. This
Yeah, like
mindset that he has.
of course, because his experiences are really different.
Mhm.
And look, honestly, my close friends tend to be friends I've made through my son, not my daughter, because they can relate to the things that we deal with. The biggest problem in my life is not that my kid gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's not my biggest problem. But look, everybody's problems are their problems.
Right. It's all
But
relative.
ours are a
Yes.
little different, and it's frustrating when sometimes people can't relate to what you're going through at all.
Right.
Yeah. So just like your son, your older son is his friends, and he is very close and protective probably. His
Mhm.
experiences are different than a lot of his friends.
Yes, exactly. So I was going to ask, I mean, I know a couple of friends who are dealing with children with autism, but I don't know too much about it. I mean, there's a broad spectrum, so there's all kinds of different things to look at and look for. So you said your nanny kind of gave you the heads up, but
Yeah.
what kind of things now looking back did you notice that kind of really sparked you're like you said this is autism.
Yeah. So being a premature twin, and he had a lot of ear infections. I think he had 8 ear infections before he was a year old. So when I took him to the doctor, they said, "Oh, his speech is delayed. He had all these ear infections, premature twin. Don't worry about it." And I think we have to really learn, no matter what's going on, when you go to the doctor, to question it. It's okay to question doctors, and if you feel something is off, you have to look further. Looking back, when our nanny, who we're still very close with, actually mentioned it to me, my husband is an attorney, and we had the DSM books, the diagnostic books in the house. And I looked it up, and it said, like, if your child has, I think it was 6 of the 10 things, then probably, and it was so textbook, like no imaginative play, repetitive play. So like he would stand with this ball pit thing and watch the balls go through and watch the balls go over and over, and like move his hands in what's called a stimming behavior, and like no gesturing in the absence of language. So not like pointing at things, not showing things, not pulling me or my husband to see something.
Well, and you use your hands a lot when you speak, so
Right.
that's
Well,
gotta be
right. And
very
only you
different.
can see that right now. Right.
Right.
And maybe I'm doing it more because I'm talking about
No,
gesturing.
no, but
But
I mean, in general, like,
yeah,
that's something that people do.
right. And
Yes,
like
yes.
no seeking out approval from, kids want to see you making like big smiles even, and giving them approval. So it was different things that it said, and I was like, wow, each one of them is like right on. And I didn't worry about like, oh, was it the vaccines? Was it this? Was it that? You just have to move forward because that's not going to change what has happened. And we were really proactive with speech therapy and things of that nature, occupational therapy and ABA therapy. We did horseback riding therapy, that it's called hippotherapy,
Wow.
and that's like what they say is the very rhythmic movement of the horse's body helps with the child's senses and helps ground them. And so it's somebody leading the horse and then either an OT or a speech therapist on the side working with the child. It's really pretty interesting.
That is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just
Wow.
being proactive and questioning and researching is so important. And like I said before, there's so many resources. Whether you're looking for something for your toddler or for your 18-year-old or 25-year-old,
Right.
there's a lot out there.
That's really good to know. And I'm going to assume this based on, like you said, again, you've been married to your husband forever. And just what you just said, it sounds like the two of you were working together and were partners along the way. I'm sure it wasn't perfect. It's not perfect in any situation,
No.
but it does make a big difference too when you both are working together. Do you feel like that was the case?
Yeah, and every marriage is working together is going to look different. My
That's true.
husband works a ton of hours. He's in private practice. He was also involved with the local politics in our town before my kids were born and then afterwards. So I did a lot on my own, but he was always very supportive. And I think he's learned that, like, I'm not going to screw anything up too tremendously. So he, like, values what I have to say and what I've found and supports, what I've come up with. He doesn't challenge the research I've done. And, plenty of parents will say, oh, not my child. And
Mhm.
he doesn't have this and, that kind of stuff. So it's important to support each other in whatever way works in your marriage.
I agree. I agree with that completely. And I think you touched on something important, especially with autism. It's I could see how perhaps denial could come in, or no, he's fine, or he doesn't have these things, or next year when he gets older, it's going to
Right.
change.
Right. Just
It's
like the
very
doctor
different.
said, premature twin that had a lot of ear infections, you have to be more patient. You have to give it time. He's fine.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's more difficult. Again, everything's relative, but when my son's muscles are weak and he can't walk anymore, well, you can see it. It's physical. He needs to be in a
Exactly.
wheelchair. But if
Yes.
if a child has some mental things going on or he's not developing maybe the same way his twin sister is, it's not as easy. Easy is the wrong word, but it's not as apparent.
It's not as obvious, I guess.
Yes, there. Obvious is a good
Yeah.
word. Yeah.
And every kid does develop differently. And my
Right.
daughter had delays being premature. They were born at 31 weeks. He was 3 pounds 6 ounces. She was 3 pounds 2 ounces. They were teeny tiny little
Oh gosh.
munchkins. I know. My
Wow.
12-pound dog was like bigger than
Oh my gosh. Yeah. How did you even have
shorter.
diapers on them?
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was just, I call it sometimes the bad old days. It was nutty.
Wow.
But yeah, everybody survives, right?
Yes, that's true. I just think it's all such great advice for people in general, but like I said, I don't think people know that much about autism, probably way more now than they did 25 years ago. But
Definitely.
again, just every child is so different. So choosing the right path, coming up with the little white lies that go along with that particular child, it's just such a journey. And I'm sure it's
Yeah.
never ending. You're
And
continuing
and
to learn
and
every
even like
day.
you said, as far as not knowing as much, like, there was a lot when Matt was really young about gluten-free, casein-free diet. And he did have a lot of gastro stuff. He would throw up like on a regular basis to where my daughter was like, Matthew spilled because she didn't know what to call it. They were like maybe two or so. And I'm like, Matthew spilled, like, but he threw up and he would like throw up and continue eating. It was wild. So we
Hmm.
did the whole gluten free, casein free thing for a couple of years. And it did make a difference in the beginning. But, think about how much gluten free there is out there now. There was very little available. like
Right.
terrible bread, one brand of pretzels. It was very, very little.
I'm sure. And now you can go to a restaurant and order something that's gluten
Yeah,
free.
now it's like very commonplace. So, we did eventually stop the gluten free because he also was the kind of 3-year-old with autism that if the french fry wasn't the right shape, he wasn't eating it. And like we would go to restaurants, I would bring food with us. We would go on vacation, and I would bring a suitcase of frozen food with us on vacation. So again, doing what works for your family, you have
Mm-hmm.
to just
Mm-hmm.
do whatever works for your family.
Right. And I
Um,
had my husband on here a couple weeks ago, and we always say one day at a time.
yeah,
So it's exactly what you got to do. Okay, we're going on vacation, and this is what he likes now. This is what we're bringing.
and this is how it's gonna, yeah. And if it works for your family, let everybody else judge because they don't walk in your shoes. So
Exactly.
let them stare, let them do whatever they need to do. And
Yep. Just
maybe
like
it's
I told you, that book, let them. Right.
oh my gosh, I'm on the last chapter. I'm listening to it on Audible.
It is so good. I keep talking about it on this podcast, but it's so very true when I'm listening to our guests. So exactly what you just said. Let them
Yeah,
judge.
and look, it might also be an opportunity to teach somebody.
Mhm.
If it's handled in the right way, if someone's staring, you can say, look, my child has autism. This is what I'm dealing with right now. And that's the story.
Yes, and like you said, children, kids are more resilient. I really agreed with you when you said that. They just accept things easier than some adults do. But even still, you make a good point. If someone's not accepting it or understanding it, you can turn it into a lesson if they're open to it.
Yeah. And it's funny talking about kids. We were at a pool once, and my kids were probably about 8 years old. And Matthew was doing his stimming behavior with moving his hands in and out and up and down. And one of the little boys said, oh, why does he do that? I said, oh, Matthew has something called autism. His brain works a little bit differently. And he said, oh, my brain works differently too. I have ADD. I said, oh, cool. And that was it.
I
Like,
love that.
yeah,
He's
just
like, "That's
matter
what
of
my mom told
fact.
me." Yeah, my mom told me my brain's different too.
Yeah. And look, I've heard from doctors that some people think that ADD is the evolution of the brain working faster.
Hmm,
So
that's
who knows?
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
who knows? That is very interesting.
Yeah.
But you know what else I like about that too is I don't like when people label themselves. Like, "This is what I am, this is what I have," instead of I'm Matthew. I'm just a guy, just being myself. Obviously, when the child comes up, you're answering the question as to what's going on with your son, but he doesn't wear this T-shirt that says I'm autistic. And I think
Well,
sometimes
yeah.
people get, even if they've got children with it, it's hard when there's this label
But and talking about the label, notice I said Matthew has autism. I don't say Matthew is
is
autistic.
autistic. Okay,
Because he does, he has autism, but he's a person. He's not autistic. He's
exactly.
yeah. So it's just a different way. It's semantics. It's a different way of
Yes.
saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's impactful. I think that's impactful. So that's a really good lesson. And I do think, I mean, it's a little bit different with Duchenne because, like I said, it's physical. He's in a wheelchair. Everybody knows something's going on with him physically, but it doesn't define who my son is.
Not at all. And
It's not,
it
I'm
doesn't.
Nathan. I have Duchenne muscular dystrophy. No, I'm Nathan. I'm 15. I'm in 10th grade and I like video games?
Yeah. And there's no difference to what he can accomplish.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, just listening to you at the very beginning of this is opening my eyes, because you do think what's next for these children that can't follow the same exact path as a lot of other children do.
Yeah.
Although I will say it's amazing that there are even completely 100% healthy children because there's so many things that can happen. Like you said, if they're born early, if they're a twin, if they're 3 pounds when they're born, or if something happened to an organ or flipped around and they lost oxygen for a short bit. There's so many things
And
that can
even
happen.
there's so many things that could happen as your life goes on. You can
Exactly.
have a devastating accident. You could
Hmm.
get involved with drugs. You could just not be able to find your way and still be living at home at 30 years old, which
Exactly.
I see it a lot with friends of
Mhm.
mine because I'm older than you, I think. And I have friends with kids in their 30s that, don't have any kind of disabilities, special needs, whatever you want to call it, and they're just trying to figure it out still. Not everybody launches at 20. Like, years ago, my mom had me at 9, had got married at 19, had me at 21, and that was the norm.
Mhm.
Different
Yeah.
world.
For sure, but yeah, you're right. Everybody has their own path. It's another reason we really like to do this show and have people share their stories because it's amazing all the different choices and the different directions people have had to go for various reasons. Sometimes because they wanted to, sometimes because they didn't have a choice. And it's just so interesting to hear people's stories. So it's definitely why Tammy and I wanted to put this platform together.
It's so
Um,
good and it's so good to expose people to different scenarios and different things. And these are real life lessons. Like I listened to the podcast with your friends who had long COVID, and how scary is that? Talk about advocating for yourself.
right. Yeah, I was glad you brought that up in this episode because it's so important to do that. And boy, did she teach us that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. You have to question everything because if you don't, you just take everything at face value. And a lot of times it's just easier for that person to, give a diagnosis and they're done. And it may be correct, but it may not be complete,
Mhm.
and it's
Mhm.
not like you're being disrespectful by questioning. You need to understand everything.
Right, and everybody's unique, and you know yourself and your children better than the doctor does, for sure.
Hmm.
So, wow.
Yes.
Well, okay, if you could go back to your younger self and give her some advice just about life in general, what would you tell her?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the girl from Long Island who thought she was going to be a buyer for Bloomingdale's because it was cool, right? Um, what kind of advice? Be patient. Be patient, listen to your gut. You have to go with what your heart tells you to do. There's no way of knowing what life has in store. And just be patient and trust yourself and ask questions.
Those are great pieces of advice for sure for anybody, even for us now. I'm still trying to find out what I wanna do with my life, so
Me
great
too.
advice for me. You too, yes, yes. I was gonna ask that, so when you were caring for your twins, were you able to work?
I was very fortunate. So the nanny that I mentioned that really used the word autism for the first time, she was with us for the first 3 years of my kid's life. She did not live with us, but she came every morning at 7 and left at 6.
Wonderful.
And oh my gosh, like we used to joke that she would wiggle her nose, and I would get home from work and the house was clean and the kids were clean and they were fed and they never had jarred food. She was making stuff and pureeing it. I mean, it was unreal. And Ida, she's amazing. Like I said, still very close with her. When my kids
Good.
are home, they'll contact her and have dinner with her.
Aw,
Yeah, I've always worked. Been very, very lucky with having care in the house. I mean, we had one that I had a fire. I fired at 7 o'clock one morning, and my husband had somebody picking her up at 7:30 because I had to have her out of my house. But we had one nanny that was with us for 3 years when my kids were like from 8 to 11. And now she's married with 3 kids, and her oldest child, her son, is on the spectrum. And she said, God put me with your family to learn how to raise my family. And
wow.
yeah, she's amazing. There, a lot of amazing people out there. So it's okay to take risks and trust your gut, right?
Yes, yes, for sure. Well, good because yeah, I guess you were not a buyer at Bloomingdale's, but
No, but I did go to FIT and worked in a buying office and realized I that buying is essentially crushing numbers, and I'm not a math person, and I hated sitting in an office, and I've been in sales. And I also knew that I was not the kind of mom who wanted to push a stroller all day and play in the park all day and had to really work for my mental health. So
yes, yeah.
it, found something that worked for me.
Yeah, and for the couple of times that I've been around you, I was gonna say I can tell you're driven, you wanna succeed and you wanna have something that's you that you own that you can be successful with. And that's very impressive.
Thank you.
And
Thank
it's
you.
also
And I
hard to
think we
do.
all create, you create a life that works for you and your family. In sales, I worked from home usually like 2 days a week, and my schedule was pretty flexible. So I could go to a doctor's appointment if I had to,
Mhm.
or be
That's
at school if
wonderful.
I had to, and then work more hours. Paperwork got done at 10 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't really matter.
Right, right.
So,
How was it with the schools when Matthew was going through, like, elementary and middle school? Did you have good relationships with the schools? Were you able to work with them to get your needs accomplished?
So I had the problem when Matthew was younger. He was in both of my kids actually were in a preschool disabled class in district where that was appropriate for my daughter, and she went on through the public school system in our town. They did not have the ability to service Matthew's needs. I had to really push with the school to get services, and then I said I want full day pre-K. Well, they don't provide full day pre-K, but they sent some to my house for the mornings to do ABA, and then he went to the half day pre-K in the afternoon where my daughter in this pre-K disabled class. But then come kindergarten, it wasn't good again, and I wanted an out of district placement, and they did cooperate, and they took me to see a few different programs, and then sent me a letter saying that the district could provide an appropriate education. And they don't have to, what parents need to know is they don't have to provide the best education. They have to provide an appropriate education. Those are the legal words.
Okay.
And we were able to fight it without getting an attorney, thankfully. But I did threaten that because they really couldn't handle his needs.
And
It's a
again, that's
small school district.
being an advocate for your
Yeah.
child.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
not being afraid and not just saying, "Okay." If the look, I didn't wanna put my kid on a bus a half hour away for school at 4 years old.
Right?
It just it's what was the right thing to do for him.
Yeah.
So,
And there's no manual to
no,
being a parent, and
no,
especially one with a child with autism for sure.
for sure.
So,
Yeah,
wow.
and, people like to give their opinions, and you have to evaluate for yourself because nobody lives in your shoes, in your house.
That's exactly right. So, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. As you continue to talk, I'm like, oh, well, what about this? And what about
I
that? So,
know, it's
thank you.
right, we could probably talk for hours, but
I know for sure. So that I don't take all your time, we could jump to how I like to finish is there anything else that you do believe our listeners should take from this? I'm certain they can take quite a few pieces of information and advice, even if they don't have a child like you have. Just for life in general, you gave some really good pieces of advice. But is there something that you feel compelled to leave our audience?
yeah, I mean, I think that because social media exists when it didn't exist when my kids were young, and I've used different social media groups, Facebook groups since then. I would say take advantage of looking, just always research and always look at what's out there. There's plenty of other people in your shoes, whatever you might be dealing with, whether it's autism, whether it's muscular dystrophy. You can find somebody to talk to and find resources
And to feel you're not alone.
for sure. That's huge.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Even for me, like I said, I'm taking a lot of pieces here. It's really making me think because I often tell people early on in my son's diagnosis, we had so many questions and we wanted to hear what other people were doing. So,
Mhm.
fortunately, that was 10 years ago. So, social media was a little more apparent.
Yeah.
And we found all kinds of mothers, all kinds of fathers, families that have dealt with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And it was great for a while, but then it became very, very overwhelming. And so, I think my husband and I friended everyone we knew that had some involvement with Duchenne, and it came to a point where it's like, okay, you do kind of still have to pick and choose
You
who the
do,
best
and yeah,
resources are
I
for
should
you.
I should also say, like, one thing I learned from the therapists that came to my house and we took Matthew to is mommy can't be the therapist, you're mommy. And you can't do the tough things all the time. Like you want to be the hugging mommy. You can't always be the tough one. And and that's okay. Kids are going to do things for the teacher that they're not going to do for mom ever, no matter what the situation is.
Right.
And you have to give yourself grace, I guess, in those situations. And sometimes just be the person to give a hug
Oh,
and
I
not
love
feel like
that.
you're going to change his life or her life, you know?
I love that because you're spot on. It's hard to play all the different roles. That means a lot. But yeah, also you're so right, finding the resources, and I think not closing yourself up to it. So like I said, there came a point where we were a little overwhelmed, so we kind of stepped away. We're very fortunate that we have such great friends in our community, but
Mhm.
they don't fully understand because they're not in the same situation. So
Sure.
I do often think like, "Oh, I probably should reconnect or find more of the right people," because especially as he gets older, it's like, what are the next steps? I have a lot of things in my mind about when high school is over, and so you've kind of inspired me to go
So
do
now
some
you can start
research.
researching
Yeah.
think
Mhm.
college website 'cause
Yeah,
there's
and talk to other
tons.
people. Mhm.
And don't go down the Doctor Google rabbit hole, you
Uh,
know?
yeah,
Oh my
I
god,
can't do
that's for not for
that.
you, but for
For
anybody,
anybody,
you like, my daughter will do it. She's like, "I think I'm dying. I just Googled this," and I'm like, "You're fine."
don't do it. That's funny. Yeah, well, I totally get that, and it's easy to do, but you're
It
right,
is.
great pieces of advice for sure.
Well,
Oh,
I'm
well,
always happy to help anybody if I can.
I love that.
Yeah, it's hard. Life is not easy no matter what you got going on.
No, it certainly is not. It's a good point as well, and it's okay to take a breath and understand that there's going to be good days and bad days, and we just have to do things one day at a time and to the best of our ability. And I really like what you were saying about what's best for you and your family,
Mhm.
for
Yeah, because
sure.
it look, and I've learned just different people can handle different things, and everyone is capable of what they're capable of.
Mhm.
So,
Very true, very true.
yeah.
Well, thank you for following our podcast. I know that you and I had just been chatting about the podcast, and I thought, well, why don't you be a guest? So
And I was
I'm
like,
glad.
"Really? Okay."
Yeah. Because I know everybody has a story. And like I said, we've talked a few times. It was
Yeah.
mainly about business. So I didn't know all of that in your background. So it was wonderful to hear it and to get your experiences and your pieces of advice because everybody can learn. And I knew that you would have a great story to share and you would be open to sharing. So of course, I wanted you as a guest.
Aw, thank you, and yes, I'm always happy to share if I can help, and what you're doing is incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really fun to do a podcast. I like to talk. So it's really been fun to do this and just allowing a lot of my friends, people that I've met throughout the years. Sometimes I've had a couple of people on here that I've known for 20 some years, and sometimes it's somebody that I just met a couple years ago or last week, and it's just been really fun to hear. Sometimes it's somebody I've known forever, but I've never heard the story before. So it's just been really fun. It's a great platform. We've had some ups and downs. We've had emotional stories. We've had work stories, all kinds of things, but we all can learn from each other, definitely. And I've only had one man on so far. That was my husband. This is
Okay.
not a women's only podcast. So if you ever hear of anybody that would like to share their story, if you can ever think of anybody, I'm very open. We're
Okay,
trying to drop one a week. So the more the merrier, the more stories, the more opportunities for people to share, the better.
that's great, yeah, I'll keep that in
Yeah,
mind,
good.
and, you never know who's next, right?
Yes, you're right about that. So, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. This will be dropping soon for all of our listeners to hear and keep in touch.
I definitely will keep in touch with you, Andrea, you're amazing.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Same to you, Melissa.
Thank you for joining us for the Show Me the Way podcast. We truly appreciate you tuning in to today's episode about overcoming adversity and finding your path. We hope it brought you new insights, empowered you with perspective, and inspired you to find joy in your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who could use a little motivation. Until next time, keep seeking the light and showing the way.